Good evening. My name is Martin Cunningham, a concerned citizen of Williamsburg County, here in the Earls community. There are many citizens of this area that's concerned about their health, the health of their livestock, and the livelihood of being farmers. Many have lived and raised their families with the help of good water in this area. Now you will hear from 3 individuals sharing their concern regarding the Earls community.
We'll go ahead and allow Mr. Stan Burnett, who is the county's, who retained his council service in reference to dealing with the mine operation.
And I'll be brief. I've been instructed, and I will be brief. All right, I know you have on your agenda 3rd reading for the moratorium ordinance, which would be a moratorium on building permits for structures associated with the mine. The way the mining ordinance is structured is if it goes to 3rd reading and is approved, that moratorium is revoked. So first reading of the mining ordinance is first reading to revoke the moratorium that if you approve, and 2nd and 3rd and so forth. So, because it would have no reason to exist anymore. This is the public record that I believe supports the enactment of the mining ordinance as well as the groundwater and blasting ordinance. It's the same as the record for the moratorium with one addition, which is the staff explanation by DHEC for why they recommended approval of the RDA permit down in the Earls community. It is, that staff recommendation is telling in a couple of ways. In terms of, if you ask yourself the question, well, why does the county need to have its own mining ordinance? Well, the staff explanation from DHEC answers the question. I mean, as well as anybody. Again, briefly, it explains succinctly that DHEC simply doesn't look at, when it reviews a mining application, hours of operation, land use conflicts, traffic impacts, noise impacts. They just don't consider it at all. The ordinance that I have drafted for y'all at your direction addresses all of those things. It confirms that DHEC is prepared, it says this, to allow the mine to cause sinkholes on property that RDA does not own. It just says there'll be minimal impacts. The ordinance that I have drafted for you forbids it. It forbids a mining activity to cause sinkholes outside of the property limits of their activity. It confirms that DHEC is prepared to allow the mine to cause wells to dry up on property that RDA does not own. The ordinance I've drafted for you forbids that. Confirms that DHEC is prepared to allow blast damage to adjoining properties, assuring only that it will not be substantial. The ordinance I have drafted for you forbids that. No blast impact outside of the property limits of the mine activity itself. I'll try not to editorialize, but this is the most incredible thing that I believe I have ever seen come out of DHEC. I've been doing this since 1978. For 40 some odd years, DHEC and all of the resource agencies have told us that wetlands are very important to the health of waters and to wildlife and marine life and so forth. DHEC's response to the information that we provided to them, that if RDA does what they have to do and that the staff recommends they be allowed to do, it will dry up 350 acres of wetlands. Many of these are actual swamps, not just marginal wetlands. In response to our claim that this would have a significant adverse effect on wildlife and marine life, they say, and I'll read it to you what they said, the environment surrounding the RDA site is rural or undeveloped and offers plenty of opportunity for temporarily displaced fauna to live until the site is reclaimed as a lake or a grassland. In other words, when it comes to a mine, DHEC is perfectly okay with destroying hundreds of acres of wetlands because they say, well, there are other places for these little critters to go. They do not explain where the fish are going to go and the marine life that live in these wetlands. Well, obviously, they don't have any other place to go. It is the most extraordinarily inconsistent ordinance that I have prepared for you does require that areas like wetlands be protected to the maximum extent that you can. It also claims, remarkably, that this county does not have legal standing to challenge their issuance of a mine permit. That is breathtaking. You are the government entity that represents all of the people that live in this wonderful place. The notion that you don't have legal standing to go in and challenge their issuance of a permit is strange. But this explains to you their view of how they issue mining permits. The mining ordinance is limited to activities that do not go deeper than 25 feet. In that way, you have some sand mines, clay mines here that are shallow, wouldn't affect those. It requires that it affect more than 5 acres. It has a $5,000 fee, which the engineers I've talked to tells me would be sufficient for you to retain an outside engineer for your staff to get expert review of the application for the mine, which is somewhat technical. It's not rocket science, but this would allow you to pay for that with that fee. This is not out of line. There are many ordinances around the country that have a fee that's commensurate with that. The application, the way I have drafted it, I have the supervisor's direction, goes to your director of public works. They review it, they prepare a recommendation to the planning commission. The planning commission decides whether to issue or deny the permit, and then any appeal would be to you, to the county council. And then obviously there can be a review in the circuit court. And then it has enforcement provisions. There is a separate ordinance, which the supervisor did not mention, but which is a regulation of groundwater withdrawal and blasting. The purpose for that is that in the event that your mining ordinance is, and I think it's an unlikely event, is held to be barred by the theory of preemption, because we have a state mining statute. This is a belt and suspenders approach. Then you would have your blasting and groundwater withdrawal that would allow you to regulate in pretty much the same way I just outlined under the mining statute. Just to compare briefly, DHEC now requires a 50-foot buffer, vegetated buffer around the property area of a mine. Your ordinance I have drafted provides for 200 feet, which is also not out of line. I believe Charleston County's comprehensive plan has a 200-foot buffer for wetlands. The blast setback, DHEC requires 1,000 feet from structures. I have it at 1,500 feet, which is commensurate with many similar ordinances you find around the country. And then, as I've said, the mine ordinance and the blasting and groundwater ordinance that I have drafted for you directly regulates all the things that DHEC says they don't have anything to do with. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Yes, sir.
You know, listening to what you said a few moments ago, for some of the irregularities from DHEC when it comes to this mine as opposed to other ventures. Now, I know you cannot unequivocally tell me because you're not in the heads of minds of DHEC, but how do you surmise that DHEC all of a sudden would just do a flip-flop on this mine? What would cause them to do that?
It isn't just this mine. The DHEC's mining permitting is done by a separate group, and they fall under an outfit called the Mining Council. This is even before we had DHEC, we had the Mining Council. And they approach mining permits differently than anything else they do. It is a little outrageous. I mean, if you've got the agency protecting wetlands, causing people to incur huge costs, I mean, sometimes bringing people, no kidding, to the brink of bankruptcy to protect wetlands. And then you have this group that says, it's okay. I mean, that is a problem. Maybe there's a legislative fix in there somewhere, but that's not my job. But I'm just telling you, they don't care about protecting wetlands when it comes to mining, but you can if you choose to do that.
So legally, does that sound like that's something that could be challenged? legally, from a legal perspective?
We are challenged. The statute, mining statute, forbids the issuance of a mining permit if it will cause significant adverse impacts to wildlife or marine life. And we have argued, you drain 350 acres of wetlands, you're going to have a significant, and if the worst case, push come to shove, we got to go try this first in front of the mining council and then in front of the administrative law court. We have an expert on staff who has successfully testified in the case of North Carolina that prevented that from going forward, who will say that. I mean, but see, that's like conventional wisdom. You go into first grade, third grade classrooms, they talk about this. Just everybody sort of accepts this. To have DHEC say, hey, no problem, these critters got other places to go, is just astonishing. So yes, it has been challenged. On your behalf, I filed a challenge. The South Carolina Environmental Law Project down in Georgetown represents the Coastal Conservation League and 2 affiliated environmental groups, and they filed a very similar challenge. That's what led to that response from DHEC staff. I should have said that the blasting and groundwater ordinance exempts a variety of activities, and I should read them because I know there have been questions from some people about those. They're of concern. It exempts agriculture, silviculture, growing trees, livestock operations, wildlife operations, and construction.
Any other questions?
I see in here, Mr. Barnett, there's a fee of $5,000 for the application. There's a penalty fee of $1,000 per day. That's payable to the county?
That's right. Yes, it would be. Yes, and the $5,000 fee, my best sources tell me that would be sufficient for you all to pay for an engineer who's expert in these areas to review it for you.
Any other questions from this body? Public, going back to public hearing, the opposers. Do we have anyone that's opposing the ordinance this time? Please step forward.
Good evening, Council. My name is Billy Brewerton. Most of you know me. Appreciate everything everybody's done, especially Mr. Miller. He represents the Earls community, and he's really spent a lot of hours with us fighting this quarry. And you can see we still got our red shirts on, and we still here tonight fighting this quarry. I'll speak kind of quick. Let me get to one of your questions you were just asking him. We've met with Mr. Joe Coon a good many times. We took him through Murray Swamp and showed him the different things. And before Bruce Wheeler passed away, he argued Mr. Coons with DHEC about a couple of questions. We asked Mr. Coons, if this thing drives up your well and you live outside of a half a mile, you live a mile, if it kills all the fish in the stream, it kills all the plants, it does anything to affect the community, who's going to be responsible for it? And he'd scratch his head and he'd say, well, somebody's got to take care of it. Well, Bruce said, well, you go sign an ordinance, sign a permit saying that this mine isn't going to affect the community in any way. You falsifying signing an application because you can't prove that it's not going to affect the community. And that's what I was getting back to your question a little bit, what was said. We got a fellow here that's from down at Sutton's, and we'd like for him to speak, Mr. Bartlett. He can speak and tell you a little bit what will happen if a mine comes and a mine affects the community. There was one other thing I'd like to bring up too that just came to my attention today. We have a road called Jump and Run Road. That road runs through the mine. I know that the mine came and tried to come in and get that road closed. The road cannot be closed because it's been a public dirt road for years. But it come to my attention today, and I don't know if I'm correct speaking, that they gonna let the mine use that road to operate on, and Williamsburg County is gonna maintain it. Right now, we got Mr. Miller to get that road open back up, and you can drive a four-wheel drive truck down it when it's not raining. So how you can run trucks up and down a road, a county dirt road, and tear up a county dirt road where 90% of it's dirt, and then it turns into asphalt where the houses are, and you can let those trucks run back and forth by those people's houses all day? I think something needs to be done. That's my opinion. I'm speaking for the community. We don't want trucks running up and down a dirt road just because that's a public dirt road for them to use to haul rock in and out every day. Y'all need to think about that too. And I'd like to get Mr. Bartlett up to speak.
fish ponds, spring fed, full of teeming with fish and other water creatures. I had probably 4 or 5 acres of wetland that water settled all the time, spring fed, with tupelo trees and cypress and stuff like that. And my spring levels began to drop. The dry weather, my ponds began to dry up. One of the ponds dried up and it's never come back. It's always full of fish, it never come back. The other one is a little bit deeper and it almost dries up and all the fish is gone. The boiling Blue Spring quit flowing. And the wetland actually got so dry with the tupelo trees and stuff were. I drilled down one day 4 feet, pure white sand that was dry, 4 feet deep. And that shows you what pumping groundwater out will do around the area. And of course, a lot of wells went dry. The Barn Barry had always drilled new wells for people who reported wells going dry. And they even had one well 4 miles west that went dry, and they would re-drill that one, that part.
To the citizens of Williamsburg County, what affects one affects all. Thank you.
Please share this video